Winter is here, so you know what that means. Today, we're taking a look at a box full of ink. Now, I'd be lying if I said we were going to look at the entire ink vent in the month of December. That would just be insane. What we are going to do, though, because Diamine does have a habit of releasing these inks throughout the year as part of another collection in bigger bottles, is we are, throughout the year, going to go through all 25 bottles that were included in the 2022 ink vent. And today, we're going to be starting off with ink number 1, Diamine Bliss. That's right, it's not in here, because I did not want to mess with this box, try to open it and all that other stuff, and, well, it's a big chunking box that I think now's the appropriate time to just get it out of the way. One good thing about the ink vent is that it's a try before you buy when it comes to these 25 flavors of ink. Flavors is probably the wrong word for that. Don't drink the ink. Anyways, I like that they give you 24 of these 12ml bottles, and then for a final December 25th ink, they provide you with a 30ml bottle. Spoilers, and we'll come back to this here in like half a year, not a big fan of bottle number 25, but I will say, bottle number 1's actually pretty good, and we'll take a look at the KPIs for that a little bit later on. Back to the ink vent itself, these 25 bottles come in a pack at just over $110, which, honestly, for an ink sampler this extensive, isn't bad. You get some plain Jane inks, you get some sheening inks, some shimmer inks, what they call chameleons that we'll see in a few weeks, and the mix is fairly well done. You don't see too many of one or the other, and the color profiles that you get with this particular ink vent are spread pretty well across the spectrum. So I like what was done here, and I think I'll probably be participating in 2023 as well. Because let's be honest, it's a good way to get content for the majority of the year, and Diamine tends to make good inks. So yeah, at the end of the day, I'm being a little bit capitalist here, but aren't we all? Now that we've got that heartwarming capitalistic message out of the way, let's take a look at bottle number 1. This is Diamine Bliss, and it is the first of the 12 milliliter bottles, which is labeled here, and it is one of the standard inks labeled here. Nice plastic bottle. The one thing with this bottle, though, is it does make it a little hard to fill. Even this Kaweco Sport has a hard time fitting into the neck on this bottle. So be mindful of that when you are filling your pens if you do get this ink. Starting off with the dry times, we can tell that Diamine Bliss is going to be very usable over here on Rhodia. It is completely dry by the 15-second mark, and for a slow writer like myself, this is functionally dry at 10 seconds. If I had a Rhodian notebook, I would be perfectly happy with this dry time. So if you are looking for a sky blue, teal, cyan mixture, then yeah, this could potentially be an ink for you. Now, when we move on over to Tomoe, it is a little bit of a different picture. We are not really dry until just over 20 seconds, but this is out of a super wet broad nib. Also, you can see how far we can push the dynamics here, and we'll get to that a little bit later on in the color swatch. It's a really nice color, and I think I would be willing to put up with a 20-second dry time on TR just to get this kind of color profile and dynamic range. Speaking of the color profile, let's head there next. I'm really having to fight myself to not call this a baby blue with sky blue undertones, but these lighter tones kind of give you that feeling. When you move over into the darker mids, though, it fades from the sky blue baby blue into more of a cyan teal combination, and you can see the teal coming through very well in these lighter transitions, and especially my favorite part of the ink, these deeper transitions here in this bottom right corner. You've got a nice green underlayer that becomes very prevalent, and out of a broad nib, a super wet broad nib anyways, or a dip pen, you're going to see that greenish blue come through. Out of a Kaweco Sport, though, you're going to see more of the lighter transition blues and more of these lighter mids. It's still a good combination, though, and yeah, 10 out of 10 would recommend. But let's see if the water performance holds up to what we're seeing from dry time and the color swab. This is one area where I hope this ink can perform, because so far, I'm liking what I'm seeing. And as we get water on the page, let's take a look at what kind of color lift we're getting. As the water starts to soak into the page, you can see that a lot of the blue is starting to come up, but not as bad as we have seen with other colors. It's going to be very interesting to see what's left once we get this dried off. Which honestly, yeah, once we get this dried off, it's not the worst we've seen, but it's definitely not the best. I would say this is a middle-of-the-road performance, where you may have to squint a little bit to see what you wrote. but there is a ghosting layer that is legible, and this is recoverable, if not just a little bit more difficult to do so. Out of 5, easily a 2 to 2.5. So now that the KPIs actually kind of work out, let's go ahead and see how this looks on paper. Starting this week on Rodeo, what we are seeing on display is less baby blue and powder blue, and more of a deeper sky blue. And I really do like this color. Yes, we're not getting that much dynamic range, and you can see here in the formal script, we're getting like virtually no dynamic range whatsoever. But the color that we do have on display, if I was going to pick just a flat color to go with, this would be it. I like this more than some of the turquoise inks that I personally find myself going to time and time again. In fact, when this one comes out in a much larger bottle, just for the Rodeo performance alone, I'm probably going to be picking up the monster bottle of this one. It's just that good. Even when we switch over to TR, we can tell that we're still getting that nice, bold, middle sky blue. We are getting a little bit more dynamic range though, as we fade into the lighter tones, but remember how I said when we were looking at the ink blot that this was going to hover between those darker mids and transition tones? This is what I was talking about. Even out of a slightly drier nib, you are getting a bold blue. Nothing like the lighter portions that we saw on the right-hand part of the swab. Now, if you are writing with a finer or medium nib, sure, you can probably get over there. And you can see some of that color come through in the lighter portions when I switch over to print, but overall, this is going to be a mid-blue ink, and one that I can easily recommend time and time again. So for the first ink of the 2022 ink vent, I think Diamine put their best foot forward. Good job, guys. And that's going to do it for our look at Diamine Bliss. If you liked that video or found it useful, then hit that thumbs up button, get subscribed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.